Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time you're watching this. This is Dr. K. This morning out in the Garden of Whedon. If you've watched my earlier presentations, you'll see that I come out in the Garden of Whedon to give these little presentations. This is the IOCCHURCH Church of Preparedness at IOCCHURCH.org. And I invite you to go there if you haven't, or maybe you're watching this from there. At any rate, weekly I give my sermon presentation to help people to see what the Bible is really all about. To get the message from the Bible that, well, unfortunately, the churches seem to be missing in a very sad way. As I have talked about before, the entire Bible was written by Jews in a Jewish tradition and their tradition of storytelling, and they were written in a way, the stories there, to convey a message that Jews could understand. And you go back and you can listen to the earlier presentations to catch up with us if you haven't yet. Based in these stories, and my favorite of these is the story of Joseph and the famine and what took place there. In brevity this morning, there were 7 years of plenty and 7 years of famine. Pharaoh had had a dream, and Joseph had interpreted that dream for him. And from there, Joseph was assigned by Pharaoh, which of course was the government, to accumulate all the grain and store it for the 7 years of famine, which Joseph did. The famine came, and ultimately what happened during the 7 years of famine is the citizens were not prepared, and they gave up their livestock, they gave up their property, and ended up enslaving themselves to the government, to the Pharaoh, in order to be able to eat. So this is about preparedness. This is about being prepared so as not to have to sell your lives and enslave yourself to a government or to an institution. And our community works together in this endeavor so that under any circumstances, and as we know, a few years ago we had Katrina. There's natural disasters that occur all over the world all the time that could break down everything from power to taking one's property away. We've become so dependent on modern technology, the internet, power, electricity, plumbing, and all the above, that a lot of people would be hard-pressed to survive very long if all of a sudden the stores were not getting food on their shelves. No longer the Publix or the Walmarts, no longer the farm. And you flip a switch, the power does not come on. You turn the water faucet, the water's not coming on. And in an event like that, it can be deadly. Floods, like happened in Katrina, and what's happening in certain parts of the world and today. So, from that story, from the flood of Noah's day, to the bridesmaids that Jesus talked about, half of the bridesmaids not having stockpiled, prepared, and having enough oil for their lamps, and they missed out on the wedding feast. This is has a lot to do with what the Bible is about, that and government, laws, and principle. Today I'm going to talk about the preparedness, and of course we all benefit greatly from technology, but unfortunately there is a payoff for all this convenience, and that payoff is a negative. It's a loss of a lot of common skills. Like you, I'm sure, or most people, it's a wonderful thing to be able to grab your smartphone or get on your computer or your iPad and Google just about any question and click on the result, and there you go. You can find your answers. YouTube tutorials, just like what you're watching here. You can find, though, that if there was a collapse, I want you to imagine life after a societal collapse. How many of us would survive? I'm going to go through a list of 29 skills that have been virtually lost to technology. And a lot of people talk about preparedness, and they've looked at things. It's like, I don't have the money for preparedness. I don't have the money to stockpile this or to put up a battery bank and a solar power system or a windmill, or I just don't have the funds to do these things. So these skills that I'm talking about now to help you survive in the event of a social collapse really are not going to require any money, or certainly not much money at all. Skills such as home and farm skills that would include darning socks, mending clothes, pretty much lost art. There are those, you lose a button, or you need to repair a dress, or what if you need to make socks or something like that? Sure, there are a few ladies out there that do this as a hobby or whatever, but the average person just doesn't have these skills. What about tying specific knots? Have you ever heard of sheepshanks, bowlines, and clove hitch knots? Really, it just takes a small piece of rope to learn how to tie these knots. And in the case of a societal breakdown, hell, no zip ties, no Velcro. You've got to figure out some way to make things stay in place. What about identifying trees, edible plants, flowers, berries? How many of you could forage just in your own neighborhood or in the surrounding woods not far from where you live and be able to know this tree or that tree, or what plant is safe to eat, what flowers, what berries? What about the art of baking from scratch, knitting, crocheting? Very basic skills to help you survive in the event of a societal breakdown. We're not gloom and doom people, but historically we know things happen, just like the Bible warns over and over and over. We're not looking at the Bible from a literalist viewpoint as far as this story actually having happened. We're not suggesting even that the flood was a earth-wide event, but we are suggesting that floods do happen, that earthquakes do come, natural disasters do happen. In the 1850s, the EMP, if you're not familiar with that, a solar burst, if you will, sends out, I don't know exactly how to explain it, but disrupts power and radio waves. In the 1850s, the most technical thing that we depended on was telegraph, and this EMP did break down the telegraph system. Can you imagine what that would do in our day and time as we depend on ATMs, debit cards? How many actually carry much cash that would get them beyond a day or two? And of course, then communication. And you depend, have you ever lost your cell phone? I hear it constantly. I see on social media, Facebook, people, oh, I've lost my phone damaged, it got stolen, whatever. All my contact numbers were in it. If you, if you send me your phone number or email so I know how to get a hold of you, because we've stored all that. We don't know it. We've not memorized it. So simple memorization skills is something to work on. And of course, there's no cost in exercising your memory skills, phone numbers, even complete address of family members, highway names and numbers, Route 2, Highway 101, that sort of thing. Unbelievable when you start thinking about it. What about recipes, measurements? Everything's digital. Everything's stored. Personal information. In Alabama here, they've just passed a law, I guess, that you no longer have to carry a hard copy of your car registration, your driver's license, your insurance, proof of insurance. You can store all this on your phone and get pulled over, just hand the cop your phone and say, here's my information. You lose your phone, all this breaks down, you can't charge your battery on your phone. Who knows, but are you able to have that information? Do you know that information? Should it be required of you? What about locker combinations? If you need to get into something happens, you've not memorized combinations and so forth. On an emotional, sentimental issue, birthdays, anniversaries of relatives and close friends. In my youth, before all this technology came into place, we didn't have reminders pop up on our phone of somebody's birthday or on Facebook. Those things were kept either in a little ledger or in the back of Grandma's Bible, when somebody was born, when somebody died, when somebody got married. What about simple math? We got calculators on our cell phones. When I was going to school many years ago, we were not even allowed a calculator in class. Now calculators are required in school. How's your math? Can you sit down with a piece of paper and a pencil and do even some very basic math? Multiplication, simple division. You'll be surprised if break down the infrastructure, societal breakdown, how useful that skill would be. Although some people still manage to hunt and peck on their phone or computer, imagine most people having to write a proper letter. Use handwriting or cursive that is legible. It's a lost art. They don't even teach cursive in most schools anymore. Filling out forms or applications by hand. Apply for a job these days, it's all done online. You don't just walk in and say, I want to get an application. Most companies now say you get online and apply online. Writing a check. ATM debit cards, who writes checks anymore? What if you had to? Write anything and have most of the words and grammar correct. It's amazing to me that even in news articles, journalists, reporters, and writers, how many grammar, I can't even speak proper English, errors you see on a common day-to-day basis. And of course, we've gotten accustomed in texting and whatnot to use shorthands, you are, how are you, and so forth. What about directions? Well, we've become very dependent on GPS. I'm as guilty as anyone else. But what if you had to go back to a time when you had to give directions and receive directions? You don't have a cell phone to punch in an address and get led there. Are you able to understand directions such as wait at the southeast corner? Do you know southeast? Can you stand somewhere that you're not accustomed to and be able to figure out which way you're looking and what's north, south, east, and west and those sorts of things? Use certain landmarks. We speed down the highway. A lot of people don't even notice the landmarks they're driving by. Directions. And again, of course, knowing just the basic north, south, east, and west. Can you identify that from where the sun is, from where the moon is, how the stars are rotating, and so forth? Can you tell someone on the phone the street names and directions they need to use to find you? If satellites went out, there's no GPS, and you need to get somebody from one point to another, and there's several turns. Do you know the streets? Do you know the road names that you drive on and the directions they go? When's the last time you had to read a paper map? And if you're older like me, these skills probably could be picked up easily again because we depended on them. But what about the younger generations? Even those 40 and 30 and of course below that never had to do these things. Read a compass. Do you have a compass? Do you know how to read a compass? And then there's everyday life skills. When's the last time you had to change a tire or check the oil and water in your car? Well, we've got AAA, we've got roadside service, and we go to Walmart or any other quick lube place, and they take care of that for us. But what if we had to do those basic things just to make sure that we can get from point A to point B ourselves? What about measurements, pounds, ounces, and basic metric measurements, which most of the world uses, but we don't? What about having to pick up a thesaurus or a dictionary and use that instead of Wikipedia? How about being able to read a recipe or a non-digital thermometer? Another skill that they used to teach, and I don't even know if it's even used anymore. Of course, stenographers don't use it because they have machines, but the writing in shorthand. And then, what about sign language? Basic skills takes no resource of money to build these survival skills, to build these and be prepared. What about starting a fire? Got a match? Anybody got a lighter? Got some lighter fluid? A little gasoline? What if none of those are available? What if the leaves and everything's a little bit moist? It's getting cold, or you need to cook with a fire. Do you know how to do these? Can you build a fire pit out of rock and whatnot and make it safe and not burn the neighborhood down or the woods around you down and whatever? When's the last time you actually slowed down, not in a rush, and just made small talk with a stranger? Just connected with a fellow human being that you did not know. You'll be surprised because reading the internet, social media, watching the news, mainstream media, and so forth, people are scared. Everyone is your enemy, not to be trusted. You're scared. But once you reach out and you begin to communicate with people, you'll be surprised at there's more people like you than that are dangerous. What about if you're waiting in a doctor's office or waiting to meet someone, appointment or whatever, and they're running late and you have to wait? There's something to practice. Don't sit with your head buried in your smartphone, your iPad, or whatever other gadget you use. Pick up a magazine and read it. Or simply engage a stranger in conversation. Simple little things to start your road to preparedness. Simple little things to start opening up your world and learn some basic skills so that you're not dialing 911, depending on the government, begging the government for assistance. Somebody come, start my fire. Somebody show me how to cook. Now is the time to learn these basic skills. Communicating. I can no longer get on GPS. The satellites are down. My cell phone's down. Whatever tools that we've grown accustomed to. How am I going to take care of my situation and my family if, wow, I'm not able to go to Kroger or Publix or Walmart and pick what I want off the shelf? There's no fresh food, and everything's running out because the system's broke. No one knows how long it's going to take to get it fixed, but in the meantime, I'm getting hungry. I've got to have something to drink. We can last longer without food than we can without water. So, how are you prepared for water? I can't turn on my faucet. The water's not running. The water's polluted. It's contaminated. It's unsafe to drink. What do? These are simple, basic things that take no money to learn. And this is what our community, IOCCHURCH, the Church of Preparedness, in our services together, we are teaching and helping each other learn these skills. So if you're not on our website, IOCCHURCH.org, if you go to our website and make sure you're on the mailing list, communicate with us. We have a piece of property out toward Childersburg, and we're going to have regular services, meetings there, and this is what it's all about. We are going to go over some Bible stories to learn from, to indicate how important it is to know how to be prepared, how it's going to be important for you and your family so that you are not having to turn to government dependence to be able to support yourself and maintain and survive for your family. So many things to think of. Hopefully none will happen. Hopefully you'll never have to deal with lengthy time of no power or any of the things that we're talking about. They were not prepared for it at Katrina. The citizens of Egypt were not prepared for it. When Noah started preparing for the flood by building an ark, his neighbors and community scoffed and laughed at him. There's been no such thing happen here. This is all dry land. You're crazy. That's pretty much the reaction he got. It happens. And we hope it doesn't. But that's why, of course, you carry insurance. You've got a car, you've got insurance, not that you're hoping you have an accident. You've got health insurance, not that you're hoping you get sick. But it is just what can be anticipated at some point in our lives, whether it be a tornado or some other event. History bears this out. The Bible bears it out. So join us. Look out, too, as you're traveling through your communities and stopping at rest areas and truck stops and different places throughout the states for the IOCCHURCH Peace Rock. We're taking these Peace Rocks to a new level. There is going to be something with that Peace Rock to help you get started with your preparedness. And this is offered to you free of charge by the Church of Preparedness if you see fit and you appreciate what we're trying to do. We do appreciate donations to assist. We do not, this is all self-supported. We're not begging for money, but if you feel so motivated, there is a way to donate to help this continue. So again, thank you for taking the time to listen to this presentation. We wish everyone the best and peace. Remember that peace does rock. War sucks. So we're preparing for peace. We're preparing the next generations, our youth, for peace. And they're teaching them peace. Jesus said, blessed be the peacemakers. And that's where we want to stand. Everyone have a good, wonderful day. My name is Dr. K. I'm standing here in the Garden of Whedon. There's my fire pit. And I've still got a long ways to go in my preparedness because I'm using a cell phone to communicate with you. And if this broke down, I got to figure out another way to get a hold of you guys. Take care. Let me hear from you. Good day.